Morning, learners. I hope we are all doing fine today. We are going to be moving along with the content. Today, we are going to be focusing on culture and heritage. It's a new topic following the previous one that we have completed, which was based on segmentation. So, we are going to be looking at the South African cultural uniqueness and how it contributes to tourism industry as a whole. So, as you know, with every topic that we are introduced to, we need to know what is expected of us. So, we are going to be looking at the lesson objectives, which entail that we need to be able to define and describe certain concepts. These concepts include concepts like folklore, dress, cuisine, cultural practice, tourist attractions. We need to be able to locate a specific cultural group with its province. We need to understand the importance of cultural diversity and how it contributes to tourism industry in South Africa. Overall, we are going to be embracing different cultures. Um, on this slide, I have used a couple of pictures to give you a broad idea of what we are going to be talking about today. So I'd like to give you a couple of seconds so you can look at the pictures. Just keep them at the back of your hand. We are going to be explaining them further when we proceed. So our first question today, it's based on its culture. So we need to understand what exactly is culture. I know you guys have covered this concepts in grade 10 last year. So we are not going to be dwelling on this concepts. We are just going to quickly just recap and move forward with the content for today. So, if you can remember very well that culture refers to shared beliefs and practices of a group of people, meaning that these beliefs are followed by the same racial and cultural group. And when they talk about practices, they mean activities that these people follow as a society or as a group, and they say it is the manner in which these groups of people do things. As I've explained, it's the manner in which they simply do things as a community, um, as a society, and as a group of people. So now they're saying here culture is passed on from one generation to the next. This simply means that culture cannot be bought anywhere. You cannot buy culture. You cannot decide now that you are going to a shop and you are going to buy culture. But then culture, it's simply uh, passed from parents to their children. When children grow up, they are taught about their culture. They are taught about things that include the manner in which they do things, the manner in which they dress, the manner in which they are required to behave according to a specific culture. It differs with cultures. So our next thing on our next concept on today's lesson, it's heritage. So we are presented with a question here that requires us to briefly understand what heritage is. So here they're saying it refers to the history of a person. When we are talking about a history of a person, we are looking at the background. We are looking at where this person is coming from, and we are looking at how this person got where that person is now. And two other concepts that we need to quickly understand, it's that are closely related to heritage, is tangible and intangible. So when we are talking about tangible things, we are talking about physical things. We are talking about things that you can actually touch. We are talking about things that you can actually see. So that's tangible. When we are talking about intangible, we are talking about language, we are talking about values, we are talking about things that you cannot see, things that you cannot touch. So that's intangible. So they are saying here it's anything passed on from one generation to the next. As I've explained, it's more similar with culture. It cannot be found anywhere, it cannot be bought anywhere, but it can only simply be passed from one generation to the next. For example, from a parent to uh, his or her children. An example with this, it's for example, okay, with us, with African people, when we are going to engage a woman, we normally we pay a thing that's called lobola, and automatically when you have paid lobola, you are already engaged to be married to that particular person. But then an example would be in Western cultures, you would find that maybe one of the heritage of a certain family, maybe they decide to pass on a ring to each and every generation in order for them to use it for their when they get married. So that's basically that can be considered as a heritage that that certain family's heritage. So it can be artifacts, it can be anything tangible. It can be anything tangible, as I have explained before. So moving along, we are looking at cultural diversity. So when we are talking about diversity, we are talking about a variety of something. You know, as you know, in South Africa, we have 11 official languages. These 11 languages, they can be associated with different provinces in South Africa. Automatically, when we talk about languages and provinces, automatically you can think how this can attract a tourist to visit South Africa because they want to experience these different languages and in their respective provinces. So cultural diversity can simply be defined as the existence of a variety of cultural or ethnic groups within a society. Talking about ethnic groups, we are talking about different races, different racial groups that are found in South Africa. We have the blacks, we have whites, we have coloreds, we have Indians. So automatically, there's a variety of racial groups, a variety of languages, and there's a variety in provinces that one can visit, which all this can play a major role in terms of attracting tourists to visit South Africa. As we continue, we are introduced to the concept of cultural uniqueness. Um, Uniqueness, something that's unique, can be simply defined as something that cannot be compared to any other thing. It's something that it's on its own. It cannot be it cannot be related to anything else. It's one of its kind. So that's when we say something it's unique, we mean it cannot be linked to anything else, but it stands on its own. We cannot draw any links to anything else to associate it with, but it stands on its own. So when we talk about something that's unique, we are talking about that. The cultural uniqueness on offer, which is specific to the area and cannot be experienced elsewhere. For example, we are going to be focusing on Eastern Cape. So in Eastern Cape, we find Xhosa people. What this statement simply means is that the experience of visiting the Eastern Cape cannot be experienced anywhere else. If you go to the US, or let's say maybe you visit London, there you can't find things that are closely associated with the Xhosa people, the experience, the food, the language, how they do things, their ritual, their cultural rituals, and everything else. You cannot find all that experience anywhere else, but you can simply find it in the Eastern Cape, if you guys understand. So, moving along, we as you can see, we have different languages. It's actually greetings. We have Sawubona, we have Nda, we have Gunjani, we have Dumela, Avushini, Molweni, hello. So, for example, if someone says Sawubona to you, then automatically you know this person is greeting me using the Zulu language. So automatically you also know that Zulu people are found in KZN. So what I need you to do is to always draw links in between languages and provinces, and then going forward you will need to also link the cuisine, the dress, and any other things that we are going to be dealing with today. So just keep that at the back of your mind. Well, I'll explain further about any other concepts that we are going to be focusing on today's lesson. So as I've mentioned, we are still in Eastern Cape. We are looking at Xhosa people. So one of the concepts that we need to understand, it's the folklore. This refers to the stories and myths of a community which is passed from generation to generation by word of mouth. So we are looking at stories. Most of these stories are not documented, and most of the stories are told by elders to their young ones. So now this type of stories, they are not only for entertainment purposes, but these stories are simply to guide the young ones, and just to guide them in terms of how to do things and how to respect the world, and cases like that. So now, as I've mentioned on our previous lesson, the concept of word of mouth, it's simply to communicate using language. It's communicating with the next person to the next person using language. So now folk tales in the Eastern Cape, they are known as Inzomi. So these are also stories, they are also myths. So now under myths we have the communication with ancestors. So what this basically means is that Xhosa people do have the belief that they are able to communicate with their ancestors, meaning that they can pass on messages and they somehow receive responses from their ancestors in a certain way. So, in terms of rituals, they normally use animals to communicate with their ancestors, and not only to communicate with their ancestors, they also have certain activities and certain ceremonies and certain events that require them to use animals. For example, they normally slaughter a cow when they are attending a funeral, or when they are burying a member of the family. They do believe the cow creates a link between the between the person that has passed on and the ancestors. So it's like they are creating a bridge. They are creating a bridge between that person and their ancestors, so that they can be able to welcome that person, and so that they can easily get through to them. So now we are looking at the dress. So talking about dress, we are going to be focusing on how this Xhosa people dress, how this specifically this cultural group dresses. And here they're saying traditional dresses. So you've heard the term traditional dresses. So it simply helps us to identify cultural groups. For example, if I were to come this morning wearing a blanket, automatically you would be able to tell to tell the next person, or tell me that I'm actually wearing a Basotho attire. And automatically, when you talk about the Basotho attire, you can you can easily remember that the Basotho attire, it's coming from Lesotho. But now, since we are focusing on South Africa and Lesotho, it's not part of South Africa, then you know most of Sotho people are dominant in the Free State. So you can closely link that particular dress code to Free State. So here they're saying women dresses are usually with bright colors. Necklaces and beadwork form an important part of their dresses. Men wear a cloth covering their waist, cloth around their shoulders, and sandals. Going forward, as you can see, there are three different pictures that I've uploaded for you guys. Um, Here is the first one on your left hand side is a man with a cloth around his waist and a cloth around his shoulders, and you can see a bit of beadwork there. This one is not wearing any sandals. It's usually up to them if they wear sandals or not. I think it depends on the conditions of the weather, or maybe if they're not going to be working on rough on rough on rough surfaces. The second one, the middle one, you can see a young beautiful woman there. She's wearing bright colors and she has a smoking pipe, you know. So also her dress, it's with beads and everything else. And the third one, it's Xhosa wedding. This is how normally Xhosa people would wear on their wedding day. In terms of cultural practices, it says here it refers to events or activities that a specific culture enjoys or celebrates for a specific reason. So when we are talking about events, we are going to be focusing on festivals. And in terms of activities, we are going to be talking about initiation schools. We are going to be talking about lobola. We are going to be talking about rituals also. So now, in terms of initiation school, most of our South African cultural groups, we have this thing called an initiation school. This is whereby a young man would go to a mountain for a specific for a certain period of time. This is where young boys are turned into men. So the key the key activity in the initiation school, it's circumcision. So there are rituals that are done there, and when they come back, they are welcomed by the community, and there's a ceremony that is accompanied by their return. This is where they probably they usually get new clothes, they get new rooms, new houses where they can stay, and they also get um, animals are often slaughtered for this ceremony as part of the celebration for their return. So now, in terms of lobola, we all know that lobola, it simply means a man is taking cows to a female's family to ask a hand in marriage. So now, lobola, it includes cows for a bridal price. But now, since you know that things are developing, things are changing, we are living in the modern world now. So now, basically, what happens, the lobola, it's not paid in paid using cows, but like it's simply paid using cash. So each cow, they'll tell you how much each cow costs, and then they'll tell you that how many cows do they want, and then you calculate and add all that money and pay lobola for it. In terms of in the um, in the rural areas, some some parts of the Eastern Cape, they still do use cows as their lobola. So they do. They most of them, they are still using cattle as a form of living. Um, yeah, so they're not only using cattle to pay for lobola, but they also use cattle to buy land from one person to the other. Okay, so as we go along, as you can see, I've loaded few couple of pictures there. We on the top left, we have young men who are at the initiation school. This is how they would typically dress when they are done with their circumcision, but they still they haven't gone home yet. And the middle picture there, we can see it's a lobola negotiation. They are bringing the cows to the female's family. And the third one, it's one of the rituals that the Xhosa people normally participate in, that connects them to their ancestors. They would burn impepo, which is also known as incense, and use snuff to communicate with the ancestors. Moving along, we are looking at tourist attractions. We are familiar with this concept, the concept of tourist attractions. Here they're saying it's a place that people visit for pleasure and interest, usually while they are on holiday. So now you would you would You'd ask yourself when you're looking at that picture, as you can see, you have tourists there visiting the Eastern Cape. You can see it's a rural area, and you can see there's dwellings that are closely related to the rural areas, and you can see they are fetching wood for fire. So now, moving along, one of the places that most tourists love when they're visiting the Eastern Cape, it's the Xhosa cultural villages. So now they're saying here, it's tourists visiting the Eastern Cape can stay in a number of Xhosa cultural villages to experience this way of life. So this simply means these cultural villages, they provide a experience, the Xhosa cultural experience to this tourist to the tourists that are visiting the Eastern Cape, meaning they are more exposed to how the Xhosa people in the Eastern Cape do things. They are more exposed to the foods that these people eat. They are more exposed to the folklores. They are exposed to their dress code, and they can closely participate in everything that the Xhosa people do on their daily basis. So yeah, that simply it simply means it simply means that going forward, they're saying getting more involved to have a feel of the Xhosa culture. So one of the things that's important in terms of experience is being part of it. So in order for a person to to easily be able to tell the next person about a certain thing, it's only when that particular person has been through that experience personally and not hearing it from someone else. Now, so this is also good for the tourism industry, as tourists visiting South Africa can be able to tell other people around the world about our cultural diversity and the manner in which South Africa is unique and everything else in turn that will be able to attract more tourists to come visit the Eastern Cape. So one of the festivals that we are looking at that are held in Eastern Cape is the Northern Arts Festival. Here they're saying this festival is held in September each and every year. Excluding last year, as you know, we were in a complete shutdown, so everything was just a mess last year. I think around September we were sitting at level 3, and we had protocols and regulations that we needed to follow. So most of the events didn't really take place last year. So hopefully this year we'll be able to attend this festival, as it takes place each and every year. So here they're saying musicians and dancers are given an opportunity to showcase their talents. Most of the people who participate in this festival are normally people from the Eastern Cape. Everyone is given a chance to participate, and it's closely it actually focuses on bringing all the Eastern Cape people together, just to just to draw association to one another. Just it brings them close together. That's the main aim of this festival. So as you know, each and every festival is attended by local people. It's also attended by domestic people. It's also attended by international tourists. So everyone it's actually actually attends the festival. So moving along, we have Grahamstown National Arts Festival. They say here this takes place during June, July each year. It's Africa's largest festival, which includes both indigenous and imported talents. So the previous festival, as I've mentioned, that it solely focuses on the Eastern Cape people. But this one, when they say imported talent, it means people from around the world, people from other parts of the province and other parts of Africa or the world. They can actually participate in that festival. So it doesn't focus on the Eastern Cape people only. They're saying here the first festival was held in 1973. Yeah, well, that's quite a long time ago. So yeah, I wasn't even here. You guys were definitely not there when the event started, when the festival started. So now, cuisine, man. Okay, cuisine can simply be defined, not defined. Another term for cuisine, it can be food. But the word cuisine, it simply refers to traditional food cooked and enjoyed by a specific cultural group. So it's food, yes, but it's not just any food. It's specific food cooked and enjoyed by a specific cultural group. That's what you need to understand. So now I'd like you to think of examples of cuisine or food that you know, and I'd like you to tell me which cultural group do you think that food falls under. Examples of Xhosa cuisine. It's what is known as ngqushu, also known as umngqusho. So it's actually not important to know the spelling, but you need to be able to explain what the ingredients are. So do not worry too much about the spelling, but focus more on the ingredients of each and every meal that we are going to be talking about. So umngqusho, it's beans and samp mixed together. We are all familiar with that dish, and we are, as you can see on the left hand side, there's a picture of umngqusho, and the next one is umfino. It's a wild spinach used in a cabbage and spinach dish known as isikwamba. There's a picture of umfino on your right hand side. Basically, what happens is that you would find a pumpkin leaves. They take those pumpkin leaves, they boil it and they dry it up. And then once it's dried up, they cook cabbage and spinach on the side and put that um, dried up leaves and cook it together with cabbage and spinach. And that particular dish is known as isikwamba. So it's as I've mentioned before, it's not that important to know the spelling, but you need to know the ingredients that make up that particular dish. We are done for today, so I'd like you to take out your classwork books and complete this activity. We have a couple of minutes left here, so we can do the corrections quickly. In the meantime, okay, we have reached the end of our lesson for today. I'd like you guys to ask any questions that you don't understand, and I would also like to hear your comments. I would also like to hear your complaints and compliments. You can, on the text folder, you can drop your questions there, and I'll be glad to answer all your questions. Um, so far, I thank you very much for your participation in today's lesson, and I hope to see you next time. It was really nice having this session with you guys, and I also hope that you guys enjoyed. Until we meet again, thank you very much. Have a lovely one to do.